and we all signed on to do all these emotions, and there's something, you don't, I mean, you're alone once those credits roll, but during the experience, you are a part of everyone. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but something to the extent of like we're all there for the same reason, and there's solace in that. There's definitely solace in that.
Then of course there's the other side of it where it's just a friggin' entertainment, like where it's just blowing your mind. The surround sound, just spectacle, fun. That's great. I mean, there's no replacing that. It's
that
sort of like
100% true. I went, and the last film I saw in the theater was Tenet over the summer, and I was by myself, and there was not one person in the theater, and I was just like, I don't give a fuck. I need to see Christopher Nolan's new special effects mindfuck extravaganza.
Yeah, you're just like, I need this.
Yeah. I don't want to be who I am right now. I want to, I want to be Robert Pattinson right now. So let's put myself in his shoes. So MacLeod.
Yes.
What was the introduction to you for this piece? How did you become involved with it yourself? How did you become involved in this picture?
Through Adam. I mean, we had been trying to make films together for a couple of years, and Adam had another script that was sort of a chamber piece called "There's Nothing Outside," about where basically the antagonist is nothingness, is a void that starts talking to the people at this dinner party. It was kind of high concept, and we just couldn't get any funding, but we had met working on another film. Anyway, point is, we'd been trying to make something for years. He stumbled upon some funding for an idea he had. He hadn't even written the script yet, and the guy just said, "Hey, I want to make a movie, so let's go." It wasn't a lot. It was, as you can see watching the movie, we had a very, very small budget, but it was at least enough for us to get to work. And, Adam wrote it in, I think, like 3 months. And there's kind of never a question of whether I would be involved. It was just, when could I? We were still shooting a film called The Siren, which I made with some friends, Perry Blackshear and Evan Dumichel, and I think I walked right out of reshoots from The Siren, formerly known as The Rusalka, into shooting principal on A Ghost Waits. So I actually didn't have a whole lot of involvement in pre-production.
But you were kind of excited because the Siren, and they look like people, a little heavier, and you could, a little bit lighter for A Ghost Waits for you to play around with, which also feels weird to say because it's not light. I mean, it is like genre bending, as you said, and I mean, your character is like your comedic timing throughout this is pitch perfect, my friend. But I don't know. It's still pretty heavy, man.
It definitely gets there. But I mean, I very much was looking forward to doing A Ghost Waits to do something different, a little broader. It's one of the things that's beautiful about Perry Blackshear's films and the way he directs is he really always pushes you to rein it in, pull it in, be more intimate, and that the nuance that he works in is very, fine, which is gorgeous and a wonderful challenge. But I was very excited to just kind of scream and shout and throw my limbs around and just be goofy. So there's probably some scenes that I ham up more than is necessarily called for.
Not the toilet scene, though. Not the toilet scene. Definitely not that one. Where you improv'd, I might add to the audience. So when you watch this was an improvisation by MacLeod at the toilet. But the thing about it is, it's perfect. It's perfect. It fits perfectly.
It came out. I was really pleased. I don't consider myself like a UCB type guy or like an improv guy. So I'm always a little nervous about it, but I've gotten better at it as the years have gone on, and I was really happy it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one. I mean, there's so many moments where I laughed out loud. That being one of them. I think a lot of the times where, whether it's the pizza delivery guy, where you're just like, well, I mean, because who would be delivering pizzas at 30? And he's like, well, actually, I'm 30, and you're just like, fuck.
Yeah, I can't really. Adam and I have like different memories of how that scene came to be, but if I very much remember that scene being an answer to a gap we saw in the script where we were like, we said, I think it's when I landed in Ohio and I landed in Ohio a little early before principal photography. And all of this might be completely false and not true. It's just what my memory tells me. And we noticed, Jack talking about how awkward he is and talking about how sort of lonesome he is, but we were like, but we need to see it. It's a film. We need to see it happen. You can't just tell us that he's awkward. And so I think maybe, according to my memory, Adam then wrote that scene as a response to that, we need to see what it is about Jack that makes him sort of fumbly and not good with people. And so there was that scene.
And it needed to be added. Like, I thought it kind of got in deeper to who Jack was as a character. I really did. Like, you kind of saw it when you were talking to your shitty boss, Neil. But I shouldn't say he's a shitty boss. He just didn't know how to respond to your questions. And
he just doesn't want to be my friend.
I guess we could put a fine point on it. He's just not interested in being your friend. But we needed that because, like, I'm sitting there. So now that I've watched it multiple times, and I actually, again, this is fuck, man. I always am droning on, but I'm just thinking of it. The first time I watched it, I thought, we need to have it here. And it's providing a little bit more of who you are. The third time I watched it, man, I was depressed. I was like, this guy is lonely. He just wants someone to talk to. And I don't want to make it sound like that. Like, he just wants someone to speak with him. He just needs a friend. It's not so much like that because he's a personable guy. He's just socially awkward. Like, the pizza delivery guy reminds him of a friend that went to school, and the guy's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But you're like, he just wants to have a conversation outside of somebody other than his boss, or maybe this ghost that's fucking with him.
Yeah, I think Jack, and I think he probably borrows a bit of this from Adam, and I find it a very endearing quality, but he's a guy who jumps to H, in a conversation. He just kind of can immediately... He'll immediately dive to like the good stuff in a conversation, the mysteries of the universe. You bump into him in a bar and suddenly we're talking about, philosophy and, what does it all mean? And also what makes us happy? Just everything, like, pours his soul out. And that can be, I think, jarring to people. And I think with the pizza guy, for example, it comes out like in that rush where he's just like, oh my God, you remind me of a friend. Actually he was like, he needs to kind of connect so much that it kind of blows people on their heels a little bit and pushes them away. And so then Muriel comes around and he's stuck with her and she's stuck with him. And I think she doesn't know it, but she's in the same boat emotionally where she has all this internal life, all these opinions and insights and things that she's never thought she needed to share with anybody, or that she never thought were valuable perhaps, or interesting, or that they wouldn't be to another person. And then Jack's like, this is amazing. This is fascinating. Let's keep going. Let's talk. And she's like, and she reciprocates. She finds his thought process and just searching together to be incredibly rewarding. And, that's why they find each other. That's why they fall in love, I think, because they're willing to journey together. And I think that's kind of what Adam was going for. And what we were trying to get at is it's finding somebody that you can journey with is a really profound gift.
And to execute it the way that he did, because I mean, again, we'll get to the ending where I had to deny my programming in terms of how Adam chose to execute it. But it makes the chemistry between you and Natalie, Muriel's played by Natalie Walker, on screen was great. But I think the sharing of this unknown, like what are we? What are we doing? Like what is this? It doesn't always work on screen, man. It doesn't always work. It really doesn't. And I just, God.
Well, I think the reason we could pull it off, if I can be so bold as to say we pulled it off, is...
Oh, you did. Be bold. You did.
is because we're so small. Because it's such a small movie, like the thing that we can always do is jackknife. We could always kind of surprise with, turn left when you're thinking right, use humor when it should be serious, like, or, use a horror beat, or undermine a horror beat with humor. You just have the creative license to say whatever keeps you watching and keeps your attention, we're going to do it because we're not beholden to a formula. A Marvel movie is a very specific formula. There's only so much you can do. Now, because they've just beaten that horse to death, they can do things like WandaVision, where they're like, this ain't a Marvel movie.
WandaVision was really fun. I did enjoy myself with WandaVision, but then you go to Falcon and Winter Soldier, and you're like, okay, back to the Marvel stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I can't even remember what I was going to say.
What I was going to say. So you mentioned, having a lot of freedom, almost forced upon you when you're making a small film. So you're making this independent film. I mentioned that you were a producer. I mentioned that you were a writer. I could even say that you helped out with camera work and sound design and editing. When you're making a film like this, I want the audience to know, how many hats did you wear? What all were you doing on A Ghost Waits?
I've never counted them because let's say 17 and a half. Yeah, I mean, I learned a whole lot from working with Perry on They Look Like People, because Perry is to say jack of all trades is sort of underselling it. Because he's a master of many. And he was a one-man wrecking crew on They Look Like People and The Siren and the third film. He's sitting there giving you nuanced direction while also trying to pull focus and, measure the light using his instinct and education. It's pretty astounding. But so I learned a lot of tricks and also just a comfortability with a DIY style of filmmaking. And from our experience on They Look Like People, I learned that it's possible. I learned that if you keep digging, if you keep shaving away and making it better and better and better, you can make something that's worthy of people's time despite its production limitations. And so that kind of gave me the emotional ammunition I needed to come to, help Adam pull A Ghost Waits over the finish line. And I, whether it's a defense mechanism to keep to always be able to say like, well, that scene didn't work out too well, and my performance wasn't that good because I was also holding a light, or because I was I don't know if that's part of the reason I gravitate towards it. It probably is, but I also just enjoy more than the acting side. I enjoy figuring out how to light a scene, how to make a setup or a room that looks like dog shit be interesting, to lean into what's weird about it and make a cool scene. And so I enjoyed working with Adam, especially during reshoots. Principal photography, I tried to be pretty respectful of our DP and Adam and people whose jobs it was to cover sound and lighting and whatever, but I'd still, it was still a pretty small crew, so every once in a while I'd hold a gel if I needed to. But especially on reshoots, that's when I really kind of put on my